Well, good morning. Welcome to Daily Videos with me, Pastor Michelle. Today is Wednesday, December 16th, and let's start with God's love note. First, a reading from Ephesians. Put away from you all bitterness and wrath and anger and wrangling and slander, together with all malice, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ has forgiven you. In God's love note. This time of year is a double-edged sword for my Christ-following children. It's a time for messages of peace and generosity and family. It's also a time of frenzy and too many crowds and not enough time and too much pressure. So today I ask you to engage this passage from the letter to my early church in Ephesus as a prayer you lift up to me. God, help me put away all bitterness. Help me put away all wrath. Help me put away all anger through the list. And help me to be kind to others. Help me to be tender-hearted. Help me forgive others as you have forgiven me. After each sentence, breathe in my spirit and breathe out the stress the world generates for you. Let's breathe. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. So, how's everyone doing on this Wednesday morning in the midst of, we are officially 9 days from Christmas, right? So hopefully everyone has gotten their Christmas gifts or have at least thought about what they're getting. I was done shopping kind of early this year. I am someone that likes to work ahead every year. And I will say this, that my Christmas thoughts today is that I love giving gifts. That's a part of my love language. I do like receiving them as well, but I'm more like giving them. So this year I kind of went overboard with my giving of gifts, but not being able to be there with people physically, I don't know, it made me up my game for gift giving. So anyway, I just thought I would say that out loud. I love when I'm able to get a gift that's like really fun. Whenever I give my nephews gifts, I always prefer that they save mine for last, because sometimes I try to get like the best one. It's not a competition, but I've always been like that when it comes to, I prefer people to open my gift last. I don't know, saving the best for last. Anyway, that's my thoughts today on Christmas. And I pray that all of you are able to have a joyous Christmas, even in the midst of this pandemic. So let's hear more about women of the Bible. So let's hear about marriage customs, how men and women were wed. So this is The Marriage of the Virgin by Raphael. This was completed in 1504. So there you go. There's a picture of a woman getting married. And then here's a bust of Antonia Minor, daughter of Mark Antony. So the Bible abounds with stories about love, desire, and seduction. For most people, the idea of intimate contact was confined to the bonds of marriage, at least for women. Virtually all women were destined to be married, for marriage was a pillar that both sustained and perpetuated the social identity of a community. The book of the Wisdom of Sirach says, where there is no wife, a man will become a fugitive. So, of course, the modern idea of a boy and a girl, or a girl and a girl and a boy dating, or spontaneously falling in love was not likely to occur in ancient times, especially same-sex dating. But marriage was a serious matter, which is why it was usually up to the parents to choose a fitting marriage partner for their kids. Marriage involved the transfer of property from the bride's family to the groom's family as part of her dowry, and vice versa as part of the bride wealth. It was universally recognized that a young couple could only start out and raise children if they had a land of their own. Land was everything in ancient times. This is why marriage was usually less about love between a bride and groom than about the compatibility of the two families, because a marriage tract would fuse them together and make them kin. Kinship was a cornerstone of ancient Jewish society. Throughout the stories of the Bible, people would look to their relatives for most of their needs, particularly because no social services were forthcoming from the state. That's why two families contemplating a marriage between their kin would first want to determine if they were compatible, if the young groom was honorable, and if both deserved the Torah, the Jewish law, and were worthy of the trust that they were about to place in each other. If these conditions were met, then surely love would follow. So, another quote from the wisdom of Sirach, I don't know exactly how to say it. Don't miss your chance to marry a wise and good woman. A gracious wife is worth more than gold. All right. So, yes, Bible times marriage was very important. But let's be clear that the Bible does not depict women in the best of light, because women are definitely seen as property throughout the Bible. And men in the Bible were allowed to have multiple wives and multiple sex partners, but were women? No, because women were seen as the property of men for the most part. That's kind of how I interpret it. But I'm proud to say that, our world has come a long way. So let's finish up this chapter of Catching Fire. So they got a mysterious object, and Katniss realized it's a spile. So let's hear what a spile is. Finnick asked, "What is that?" I wrestle the thing from the ground and brush it clean, cut my hand around the tapered end, concealing it, and look at the lip. Yes, I've seen this before. On a cold, windy day long ago when I was out in the woods with my father, inserted snugly into a hole drilled inside of a maple, a pathway for the sap to follow as it flowed into our bucket. Maple syrup can make even our dull bread a treat. After my father died, I didn't know what happened to the handful of spiles he had, hidden out in the woods, never to be found. It's a spile, sort of like a faucet. You put it in a tree and sap comes out. I look at the cinery green trunks around me. Well, the right sort of tree. Sap? Finnick says they don't have the right kind of trees by the sea either to make syrup, but there must be something else inside these trees. Peeta says, we're all on our feet at once. Our thirst, the lack of springs, the tree rat's sharp front teeth and wet muzzle. There can only be one thing worth having inside these trees. So Finnick goes to hammer the spile into the green bark of a massive tree with a rock, but I stop him. Wait, you might damage it. We need to drill a hole first. There's nothing to drill with, so Mags offers her awl, A-W-L, and Peeta drives it straight into the bark, burying the spike 2 inches deep. He and Finnick take turns opening up the hole with the awl and the knives until it can hold the spile. I wedge it in carefully, and we all stand back in anticipation. At first, nothing happens, and a drop of water rolls down the lip and lands in Mag's palm. She licks it off and holds out her hand for more. By wiggling and adjusting the spile, we get a thin stream running out. We take turns holding our mouths under the tap, wetting our parched tongues. Mags brings over a basket, and the grass is so tightly woven it holds water. We fill the basket and pass it around, taking deep gulps, and later splashing our faces clean. Like everything here, the water's on the warm side, but this is no time to be picky. Without our thirst to distract us, we're all aware of how exhausted we are and make preparations for the night. Last year, I always tried to have my gear ready in case I had to make a speedy retreat into the night. This year, there's no backpack to prepare, just my weapons, which won't leave my grasp. Then I think of the spile and wrest it from the tree trunk. I strip a tough vine of its leaves, thread it through the hollow center, and tie the spile securely to my belt. Finnick offers to take the first watch, and I let him, knowing it has to be one of the two of us until Peeta's rested up. I lie down beside Peeta on the floor of the hut, telling Finnick to wake me when he's tired. Instead, I find myself being jarred from a deep sleep a few hours later by what seems to be the tolling of a bell. Bong! Bong! It's not exactly the one they ring in the Justice Building on New Year's, but close enough for me to recognize it. Peeta and Mags sleep through it, but Finnick has the same look of attentiveness I feel. The tolling stops. I counted 12. I nod. 12. What does that signify? One ring for each district, maybe? But why? Mean anything, do you think? No idea. We wait for further instructions, maybe a message from Claudius Templesmith, an invitation to a feast. The only thing of a note appears in the distance. A dazzling bolt of electricity strikes a towering tree, and then a lightning storm begins. I guess it's an indication of rain, of a water source for those who don't have mentors as smart as Haymitch. Go to sleep, Finnick. It's my turn to watch anyway. Finnick hesitates, but no one can stay awake forever. He settles down at the mouth of the hut, one hand gripped around a trident, and drifts into a restless sleep. I sit with my bow loaded, watching the jungle, which is ghostly pale and green in the moonlight. After an hour or so, the lightning stops. I can hear the rain coming in, though pattering on the leaves a few hundred yards away. I keep waiting for it to reach us, but it never does. The sound of the cannon startles me, although it makes little impression on my sleeping companions. There's no point in awakening them for this. Another victor dead. I don't even allow myself to wonder who it is. The elusive rain shuts off suddenly, like the storm did last year in the arena. Moments after it stops, I see the fog sliding softly in from the direction of the recent downpour. Just a reaction, cool rain on the steaming ground. I think it continues to approach at a steady pace. Tendrils reach forward, then curl like fingers as if they are pulling the rest behind them. As I watch, I feel the hairs on my neck begin to rise. Something's wrong with this fog. The progression of the front line is too uniform to be natural, and if it's not natural, a sickening, sweet odor begins to invade my nostrils, and I reach for the others, shouting them to wake up. In the few seconds it takes to rouse them, I begin to blister. Yikes. Man, what did they release into the air? All right. God bless you all, my friends. Please stay safe out there.